Hello again. Welcome to The Sweat. No one watches this show because they need something. You watch the show and let us tell you what you need. Emerson and Jessie here.
No, not us. Don't listen to us. I'm being serious. Listen to guys like DK Live's Julian Edlow and Karin Phillips from theshadowleague.com, also known as our NBA panel tonight.
Brilliant idea, Coffield. Let's play some over-under, talking DK Sportsbook bets for tonight's Game 5 between the Raptors and Bucks. Eastern Conference Finals. Karin, the point total is set at 214.5. You hammering that over or under?
I'm going over on this. I looked at the totals from the past 4 games, and they've stood at 208, 228, 230, and 222. So give me the over in this pretty confident tonight in a big swing game. In 7-game series, I'm always a fan of the odd number games because they tend to usually tell you who's going to win it all.
Okay, Jules. Karin was very confident in the over. You are confident in what?
I like the over here as well. I think it was 217.5 last game, and it wound up going over. I don't think that this series is going to get that much more defensive going back to Milwaukee. This is when these series kind of tend to open up a little bit after they start off slow, and Game 1 did start off slow, 108-100. So the Bucks are a fast team. They like to play fast at home, and I think they're going to continue, ramping up this pace, and this will be a higher scoring game for this series.
Well, the over-under for the Greek Freaks points is set at 27.5. Now, he's only eclipsed that mark once in this series. So which way are you leaning, Julian?
I'm leaning over here, too, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the game being faster paced and going over. Giannis was close in a couple other games. He had 25 in Game 4 and really didn't play that well outside of the first quarter. So I think coming back home is going to be really good for him in terms of leading this team, something that he's been so good at all year and kind of struggled with in these last 2 games in Toronto. He had 30 points in Game 2. He was kind of close to this number with 24 in Game 1. So I think this number is spot on. I don't know if this is going to be a huge, 40-point signature game for Giannis, but I do like him to get over this number at home with the game kind of speeding up a little bit.
Karin, where are you going on this one?
You look at Giannis in the last game, he had 24. Game 2, he had 30. Game 3, he sucked and had 12. So you would look at all this and you'd be very confident and say, Giannis, Game 5 at home, they need this. I'm taking the over. No, I'm taking the under. Not because I don't think Giannis won't have a big game tonight, and not because I don't think the Bucks will win this game, but Giannis needs help. What made Milwaukee so intimidating earlier a couple weeks ago was that it was just Giannis being Giannis, and everybody else was hitting these wide open threes, and everybody's on fire, and there's a raucous crowd there in Milwaukee. That hasn't been the case the last 2 games. So if the Bucks really want to win, Giannis needs help. And so I can see Giannis being around 25, 26, but he needs his assist numbers to be high so he can create shots for these other guys, because as we've known all year, and as we've seen this series, they don't have guys who can create shots. So I expect his assist numbers to be up, but if they want to win this game, he needs a lot of his teammates to help him out in the scoring column. So I don't think this is a game where we'll see Giannis go for a high 20s, 30, or maybe a 40 ball. You need him mid-20s with a lot of assists and a lot of his shooters knocking down shots.
Okay, let's talk about some of that help. DK Sportsbook has the over-under for both Eric Bledsoe and Nikola Mirotic at 11.5. So who do you feel has a better shot at going over then, Karin?
I got to take Mirotic with this just because he's one of their prime examples of somebody I was talking about earlier who you need to shoot shots and hit these threes that are going to be huge momentum swings for a home game. Eric Bledsoe can get to the cup and he can score buckets. The thing that's hurt Eric Bledsoe in this series is that Eric Bledsoe is tiny compared to the rest of the defenders that are out there on Toronto. Niko Mirotic, if he hits this, all he needs to do is hit 4 threes tonight, and he hits the over on that. And I feel very comfortable with the way you see role players playing very well at home against playing on the road in playoff games. And we saw Mirotic in the playoffs last year with New Orleans. I expect him to have a good game. So 4 threes, that's all he really needs to do this. I'm taking him in this.
Okay, so who do you feel has a better shot at going over, Julian? Because Eric Bledsoe hasn't been fantastic this postseason, correct?
Yeah, Bledsoe started off all right against the Pistons, but both of these guys have kind of been garbage against Toronto. Mirotic is not shooting well from 3. I expect him to shoot a little bit better at home, so I'll take him by default. But Bledsoe's been brutal. He's 2 for 19 from downtown. Yes, he can get to the rim. He's a good defender, but These are both guys that I'm looking at. If I'm coaching the Bucks, I'm looking at scaling back their minutes here, getting guys like George Hill, Malcolm Brogdon on the floor more. So if there's any bet that I feel more confident about in either of these guys, it's under 11.5 on Bledsoe, whose high in this series is 11. So he has not been good when he's on the floor. He's been getting between 20 and 34 minutes in this series. He played just 20 in Game 4 in Toronto. I think George Hill and Brogdon see more minutes off the bench in this game, and we could see Bledsoe dip under 20 minutes here. So I think the under 11.5 points is probably my favorite prop here.
Well, they also have both Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol at over under 9.5 points. So who do you like more to hit the over, Jules?
Yeah, I'm going to lean on Marc Gasol a little bit more here. Ibaka's just been so inconsistent, and I expect him to be a little bit more inconsistent on the road, whereas both these guys are veterans, but Gasol's probably the more playoff-tested veteran. Toronto needs him on the floor more to kind of counteract Brook Lopez, who should see a good amount of minutes at home in Milwaukee. Lopez is a guy that kind of drags Gasol away from the rim with his newfound three-point shooting. But the size matches up nonetheless. I think Gasol is going to be on the court more, and I think Gasol's the guy that has the better chance to score more.
Karin, Ibaka or Gasol?
Is there a way for me to pick like neither here?
I mean,
that's what I did with Mirotic and Brogdon, essentially.
Yeah, like I don't like either option, but if you're gonna put a gun to my head, I'm gonna go with Serge. Just because to disagree with you, I think Serge may play more minutes tonight. Just because like Marc Gasol, while he is a better shooter, he is not the defender that he used to be. Like that, this guy used to be an all-world defender. And the lateral quickness isn't there. And Serge isn't the guy he used to be on the defensive end either, but it's just a little bit better. And I've never been a Serge Ibaka fan, but this is a pivotal Game 5 where you need experience. And this Toronto team, we know their history in playoffs and big moments. And Kawhi is going to look over and look at his roster and be like, who's going to step up? And the only guy on that roster besides Kawhi and Danny Green with finals experience is Serge Ibaka. So just for that alone, I'm going to take Serge Ibaka, but I do not feel confident in either of these guys. I would go small ball if I was Toronto.
All right, we're going to take a look at the DFS side of this game with you two gentlemen coming up right after we have a little chit-chat with Astros manager AJ Hinch.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Yankees are seeing yet another player get bit by the injury bug. This time, it's CC Sabathia going down as New York has placed their lefty on the 10-day IL with right knee inflammation. This issue has been bothering Sabathia for the last few outings, but was able to take the mound on Wednesday night against the Orioles, where he allowed 5 runs, 6 hits, and 2 walks while striking out 7 and going 5 deep. And while he was able to get the win, Sabathia did admit after the game that this knee has been giving him discomfort. Quote, "It's like a shooting pain goes through every single time when I land." Sabathia told reporters on Wednesday, "It makes it hard to finish my pitches." Sabathia started the regular season on the IL, but in his 8 starts since coming off of the Southpaw is 3-1 with a 3.48 ERA and 34 strikeouts, and what has already been announced that will be his final season in the Bigs.
The good news is DraftKings is the sweat is back on your screen. The better news is AJ Hinch, manager of the Astros, is also here. Thanks for taking some time to hang out with us, man.
You got it, man. Anytime.
So you guys hold a strong lead in the AL West right now. So how do you keep the pedal to the floor and continue ripping the heart out of your opponent's chest after having such a great start?
I got to keep playing the boys. We got a pretty good lead, but it's early. We're not even Memorial Day yet. We're getting there, but it's key for us to just keep the grind. The one thing about winning before, we've won 100 games a couple of years in a row, World Series a couple of years ago. These guys know you have to play the whole season. So I'll just keep rolling them out there, give them some rest days, but we can't really look at the standings quite yet.
Yeah, and your record at home right now is extremely impressive. You have 18 wins, just 5 losses. I mean, how much of a home field advantage do you guys feel you have when you are at Minute Maid Park?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, our fans are loud. They come out. We have a good little vibe here. Our players like playing here. I think we've played the least amount of home games thus far this year, so we're going to get a lot of home games coming up. But it's a nice place. I mean, it's a nice place. It's easy to call home. We're used to the dimensions, the small left field, the lighting inside the roof and stuff like that. So there's been years I get talked or asked questions about why we're so good at home. There's been years where we haven't been good at home. This year it looks like we're pretty good.
Did I see that you got out there and actually had a workout with the guys yesterday?
A little bit. The last time I ran with a player, I blew out. So I didn't run with Altuve and Springer, but I was messing with them like I was going to, because if you can't beat your 45-year-old manager, you can't play in the big leagues. So I maybe turn the dial up a little bit, make sure they get after it.
Yeah, they're like, I can't lose to Dad.
Right, exactly right.
All right, well, Michael Brantley was a big pickup for you in the offseason. How much depth has he added to your lineup?
It's been huge. When you think of the Astros, you think of Springer at the top and Altuve and Bregman and Correa. Those are four of the best right-handed hitters in baseball. And so to stick Brantley in the middle of that lineup as a lefty, conducts his at-bats, he's a pro's pro. He hits 300 every year. He's been a perfect addition for us. And, he's got some impact as a veteran that I didn't know that he was going to have. But the influence is real. The left-handed bat's incredible. And in the middle of that right-handed dominant top of the order, it's a perfect puzzle piece for us.
Yeah, and you mentioned Springer. He seems to be able to really elevate his game like every season. He's on pace for a career year, MVP type numbers we're talking about right now. So what is this guy's secret? Like, how is he able to continually improve his game?
Well, it really started. The breakout was the World Series MVP, and then he's just gotten a little bit better. When he was a draft eligible player out of Connecticut, he was an athlete first, baseball player second, and I think we've seen him grow as a baseball player year after year after year. And that it does show that you can mature in this game a little bit later. Your baseball skills catch up to your athleticism sometimes, but when he's gotten better in the strike zone, the swing and miss has stopped. His contact rate's gone up. His production's gone through the roof. All
right, let's go to the mound. Justin Verlander has been nearly unhittable, it seems. How impressive has he been to watch? And maybe how has his performance helped fuel the rest of the pitching staff?
Yeah, he's a real guy, and he's very influential on our team. And every 5 days when it turns into his rotation spot, there's a little extra attention, a little extra intensity, I guess, and a little extra vibe around our team. And that just means he has great influence, but he continually gets better. And I was asked the other day, is this the best three start stretch of his Astros career? And it probably is, but he's had so many of these stretches over the last couple seasons with us. It's hard to compare because he's always evolving, getting better, tweaking things, throwing different pitches, and then he reaches back to finish his outing at 96, 97 the other day. So it's hard pressed to believe that he's in his mid-30s.
Yeah, and he's a beast come postseason time. Feels like every year. How about tonight against the White Sox, though? Lone primetime game on this slate. You send Corbin Martin to the mound. 23-year-old kid. He's made 2 starts so far this season. What's impressed you the most about him so far?
His presence is good. He was drafted a couple seasons ago, and he already feels like he fits in. And Major League Clubhouse, the responsibility to be the starting pitcher. His first test on Mother's Day in front of friends and family here in Houston. He grew up locally. He was pretty impressive. Punched out a bunch of guys and got the win. And his second start in Fenway was the first time he threw in front of that many fans, and especially in Fenway, it's a rowdy place. So lost a little bit of his feel, walked a few guys. So this third start will be nice to watch him bounce back. But it's nice to see 95 to 97, a power breaking ball. He's got good presence. He's mature. He knows that he's on a pitching staff and on a team that's really good. So I like how he's fit in.
All right, we are DraftKings. We're the home of daily fantasy sports here. How much of a fantasy sports guy are you?
A little bit. I like fantasy football my whole life pretty much up until the last couple seasons. And then, I get into a little bit of the golf and a little bit of off-season stuff. It's fun. It's fun to stay connected. And, there's always the curiosity around the majors and the golf or when fantasy football rolls around, you'd be amazed at the banter and the talk that goes on in Major League Clubhouse of who belongs to who and who drafts who. I mean, we wear our NFL jerseys every September when we go on a road trip, and we make a big deal out of it.
So it sounds like it's a big deal in your clubhouse.
Yeah, our guys like it. Yeah, there's some guys that anything that players can do that will create some sort of trash talking opportunity, they'll do it. So like Jake Marisnick, George Springer, Will Harris, kind of the lead guys in that. Brian McCann, who's on our team the last couple seasons, I think he won it 1 year. So it's talked about like not only this year, but it's talked about like last year's fantasy football matchups. I mean, it's kind of a constant topic.
Yeah, so come late in the season, before you're setting your actual lineup for those games on Sundays, you're setting your fantasy football lineup, all right? Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. We don't hit on Sundays, and that's changed over the years, which has probably made the players happy. They can make sure that they got their early games are all set.
All right, I got one more for you. What are some memorable team names you've had? And we are on the internet here, so any names borderline PG-13 you can share with us.
I used to be a big Elway fan, so I think John's Jerks was one of them. I had Stanford and Sons. I went to Stanford, so I kind of played off the old TV show Stanford and Sons. Stanford and Sons is the one that I've won with the most. So that's the one. It's on the Philadelphia. When I was a Philadelphia Philly, I won the fantasy league back in like 2000. I think it was 2005. So on the trophy it says Stanford and Sons. So I got to go with that one.
All right, I will make a note to avoid that team name if I see it come up in like
That's
Showdown.
right. You see it floating around. You're right. You see it floating around. That's bad news for you.
All right, AJ Hinch, World Series winning manager of the Astros. You're a good man. Thank you for joining DraftKings as the Sweat.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Tiger Woods will be back in action next week as he has now entered the Memorial Tournament. Woods is fresh off missing the cut at the PGA Championship. He missed it by just one stroke, but was 17 shots back of the eventual winner in Brooks Koepka. He did seem to suggest, though, that he wasn't in top form as he skipped out of the Wells Fargo Championship a few weeks prior to the PGA Championship and didn't go through his practice round. Woods jumping into the Memorial Tournament, and it isn't too surprising as the 2 rounds at Bethpage Black are the only rounds of competitive golf he's played since winning the Masters in mid-April. Woods is something of a regular in this tournament as he's appeared at the Memorial 16 times and claimed 8 top 10 finishes with 5 victories. He's never missed the cut here, but did shoot a third round 85 in 2015 when he was dealing with his back issues. That score was the highest in his pro career.
Our next guests are living opposite lives right now.
Do tell.
Reed's on the beach in Hawaii, and Jeff is dog sledding in Canada.
True story, not dogs, but Jeff tweeted yesterday he did see a moose recently in
that's
Canada.
sick.
Not sure
It's
last
true.
time.
It's pretty close to my house, too.
A moose.
Fantastic, dude. All right, go ahead, Jessie.
All right, anyway, time for PGA Chaser Fade. So, Jeff, Jordan Spieth is tied for second right now. Chaser Fade, he falls off tomorrow.
These two hammerheads. Jeff, we should be hosting the show virally. You should
I just want to point out here to the fact that I've got my sweat host ranks up today.
Wait, why am I third?
She's right middle of the pack. You're getting really close to Kaufman territory, Jesse.
Why am I third? Why am I third?
What?
Why am I third?
About that crack yesterday about my home country. You fell.
Listen, Jeff, I
accept that.
stan Canada, okay? I stan it. You don't even know what that means.
Okay.
I'm just pointing out you're really close to Kaufman.
Okay. All right, that's a
things
wake
up a
up.
bit.
That's a
That's
wake up
okay.
call for me. That's a wake up call for me.
Okay. What are we talking about? Jordan Spieth? Jordan Spieth gained over 5 strokes on the putting green today. Like, honestly, you should have shot 60. If he had a decent ball striking day, you should have shot 60. I'm not being sarcastic of that at all. It's absolutely ridiculous. He is going to fall off a little bit because his ball striking isn't really that good right now. Rode a completely hot putter. I'm expecting him to fade a little bit. He's also going to have to play in the windy wave tomorrow afternoon. So as far as like a showdown pick, I don't really like Spieth tomorrow at all.
Reed, how do you feel about Spieth tied for second right now?
Yeah, I just wish we should dissect we could dissect the host rankings there, but we got to talk about boring old Jordan Spieth. Him getting his career high in putting, strokes gained putting. I think 2019 2019 at the Players this year, he gained around 5.1 strokes putting. Today he gained 5.4. So he beat out his career best, and that's what he's been doing. And I kind of agree with Jeff that this has to normalize because ball striking, he was in the hundreds or close to it in terms of ranking in this field, which is pretty bad. And you have to normalize. You think it's going to normalize, but man, this guy's been doing it. This guy's been doing it with this putter. I think the shortest putt he missed through 15 holes was 15 feet. And that's pretty, that's pretty impressive of what he's doing on the putting surface. I do agree that it has to normalize a bit because the irons and the wind's going to pick up. We saw the PM stack this week or today. These guys get kind of screwed in terms of that draw. So I think it's going to normalize. I agree with Jeff.
Reed, Roger Sloan, who is from Canada, a fantastic country.
I love Canada.
The other golfer in second right now, let's see, he is, I believe, 272 in the official world golf ranking. So chase or fade that this guy stays in the top 10 after tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to chase Canada. I'm going to chase Canada's Jordan Spieth and Roger Sloan. Look, I mean, he actually is the opposite. I mean, he's missed cuts, I think, the last 3 or 4. I think he made the cut at the Arnold Palmer or one of these, Byron Nelson, where he came in like 80th place. But he just has not been able to putt. I was on him a couple tournaments ago, just because, that's what happens. When the ball striking is there and the putting isn't, that's got to come back. And that's what he's done today. We saw it. He had 6 or 7 birdies, or 6 birdies and a bogey. He's top 30 or just outside the top 35 in birdies or better game coming into this round. And that's what he did. He was able to make a lot of birdies today. I think this stays because he was top 10 in ball striking, top 10 in putting. I think this stays. I think he stays in the top 5 going into the weekend.
What do you think, Jeff? Does your boy maintain top 10?
Obviously, he's Canadian, so he's going to tough things out. He's got the windy wave tomorrow, but he's used to playing golf in blizzards, right? So, in all seriousness, I mean, Reed pointed out the ball strike. He did have a really good day with the irons. It's kind of the opposite of Jordan Spieth. They both shot the same number. Spieth did it all with the putter. Sloan did it through good iron play mostly. I would trust him to hang around. He does have the harder wave tomorrow, but when they're playing consistent, Colonial is a place where if you're consistently ball striking, you're gonna have birdie opportunities. And I think Sloan's a guy who could hang in there. I wouldn't necessarily target him although he's a pretty cheap, but just because there could be some regression. But I still think he'll still hang around. I think top 15, top 10, I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, Jeff, Ricky Fowler's in trouble. There's +4 today. That's not very good.
4 over.
So chaser fade. He misses the cut.
Yeah, this might be one of those Ricky weeks where he just kind of didn't really show up and takes the week off, and that's fine. But unless he played him, then you're screwed. But I mean, he lost like 2 strokes on the greens today. He can turn it around, but you also have to look, like, he was in the easy wave today and he shot +4. If he was in the afternoon wave and he was getting to go out in the calmer wave tomorrow, I'd be more confident he could turn around. I don't think so. He's not someone I would personally chase tomorrow. Again, he does tend to have these tournaments where he just starts slow and doesn't get it turned around. And again, like I said, he's playing in the afternoon wave tomorrow. Hasn't figured out these greens. Probably isn't going to have time to. So I'm going to say he misses the cut.
Reed, do you think he's going to miss the cut?
I think he actually makes it. I agree with Jeff when you look at Ricky, and just if you watch today, because he was one of those featured groups, you actually had to you could see kind of how he was playing, and just his body posture, his body language wasn't all there. And you don't want to read too much into that because I'm not a sports psychologist, and he just didn't look like he was into the round. That's kind of his MO, though. He's a little chill when he's on the course, but for some reason, it just didn't have any fire behind his shots and his putting, like Jeff mentioned. He almost finished dead last in ball striking after his round. He was like 65th in putting. Started off with 3 straight bogeys, and then obviously over the next 15 holes, he was only 1 over, which is, I guess, kind of nice, a saving grace. When you look at, I wasn't high on Ricky coming into this tournament, but 11th in strokes gain approach over the last 24 rounds. He can get those birdies. Obviously, he's one of the most elite players in this field. This cut line has historically been around this +3, +4, +5 number. If that wind picks up and if these guys do come back, like the guy we're going to talk about in the next question, if they do come back more, I think he has a better chance. So I'll say he'll make the cut, but to finish with the top 25, he's got to do it Rory style, like back to our top 25 if he wants to.
And that guy we are talking about on this next question, Tony Finau. This is your shining moment here, Reed. This is your boy. You ride or die with him. So chase or fade, he will actually hold on and win this thing.
Thank God tournaments finish on Thursday, right? No, I'm scared. First off, I'd like to thank Louis Oosthuizen for withdrawing in typical Louis Oosthuizen fashion before the tournament.
Hey, we said Louis' range of outcome was like last to second.
Dead last.
Literally, that was. Yeah. We pretty much nailed it yesterday.
Exactly. Tony Finau, I love that I saw him when I woke up this morning because I'm a little far behind in terms of the time schedule. That he was the -6. But what scares me, 20% fairways hit in regulation. He was gaining like 3 strokes on the putting surface. I think he hit like 90% of the greens, which is nice, which is great. And that's why at this course, I didn't necessarily think that you had to hit the fairways to get this score, to do well. But that really scares you, right? 20% fairways hit. If he's not extremely elite with his irons, which he was today, and really good with his putter, again, which he was today, That scares me a little bit, but I'm on the Finau train. This guy has to win one for me to actually make some sense whenever I tout Finau in the future. So I'm on it.
All right, Jeff, what do you think?
I kind of am too, and there's a couple reasons why. First of all, Finau actually changed putting grips this week. He's going with something called a claw grip. And if you're not a golf enthusiast, I'm not going to explain what that is, but it's just a different putting grip.
Awesome, thank you.
He apparently, felt very good with it today. Obviously, he only hit 3 out of 14 fairways, but here's the thing: it can't get any worse than that, right? Like he's probably going to hit more fairways as we go. And like he was first in strokes gained approach today too. So I think his chances are actually pretty good here. He's got the lead. He can just grind it out in the wind tomorrow, and he's going to be in a good spot. And more confidence on the putting green with Tony Finau, that's what you need. So I'm going to say he actually gets it done.
All right, good stuff, you two. I can't help but notice, Jeff, that Reed didn't even make the rankings.
Ooh.
Not a host.
Well,
you're kind of throw him in there. There wasn't enough room.
Even if I was, there wouldn't even be enough whiteboard for Jeff to put me in his top 25.
That's because you're at the bottom.
You're still above Kaufman.
Thank you. That's all I need.
Wow, that's so nice. Okay, cool. You guys can go now on that lovely note.
All right, guys, we're going to have you back in a little bit for football and to break down the claw grip right after these messages from Pat Mayo.
In a full point PPR, is Travis Kelce a first-round pick?
Yes. Am I going to do it? No. If he's there in the middle of the second, I'll do it. And the truth is put him at the wide receiver position. He finished as a wide receiver 1. He finished inside the top 10. So that's how you can make the argument, especially with the disparity you're getting. The advantage of everybody else and how terrible the position is, not to mention, what we're dealing with of whether or not that guy ends up playing for the Chiefs this year. We're all assuming he doesn't. Kelce should see an uptick and even usage from last year. So he deserves to be there. It's still, you're going to have to hit somewhere anytime you take a tight end that early. This is the Gronkowski argument.
But that is it actually feels like Kelsey's far safer than Gronk has been for like the past 4 years based on the situation that he's in, his age, and the production that he's put up. You just pray that he doesn't get hurt. He gets hurt. But to say that you need to hit somewhere, no matter if you're going to win any fantasy league, like if you draft a guy in the first round, he needs to be good, whether it's a running back, tight end, quarterback, or wide receiver. They have to come through on where they come in. You have to hit a 9th round pick somewhere, a 13th round guy that ends up becoming a top 4 guy. It doesn't matter who you pick in the first round. You need those guys to fill out your roster.
You do, but the difference is the drop off from the capital you spend. It's easier to make up at the tight end position if you fall. Like if you take the running back,
you need to luck into the right guy at tight end if that's going to happen. Like if you picked up Eric Ebron after 2 weeks last year and rode with him, then yeah, you close that gap. But it really does feel like the gap between Kelce and then down to like Ertz and Kittle and then everyone else is pretty substantial.
No, just what I was going to say is it's the hit. It's not the hit as in you hit your draft. You're right. Kelce plays 16 games. He deserves to be a first rounder. My point being of what I was going to say was hitting is if something goes sideways, like if he misses 4 games, which can happen to anybody. But that was my point is it's if something goes sideways, is if this team completely falls apart, Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, or maybe all of a sudden this offense just doesn't work and everybody just double coverage and triple coverage as Kelce and all of a sudden he has a down year. The point, what I was going to say is it's a lot easier to make up your first round cost of a running back or wide receiver than it is if you invested in a Kelce, because now you're weaker at another position. You're not making up a Kelce. Like you said, the Eric Ebron thing, that doesn't happen regularly. It's not you're usually picking up a top 5 tight end off the waiver wire because that was different because Jack Doyle got hurt. So my point being is if something goes sideways. Now, if he plays 16 games, he should be a first rounder. End of discussion.
Okay, believe they were talking about Travis Kelce for a little bit. Just so you know, he's had the same barber since high school.
Wow. That's
something to keep in mind as you consider drafting him in your season long.
Okay, now to the stuff that you actually care about, NFL playoff odds with Reed T. Fowler, my absolute favorite Canadian and analyst in the world, Jeff Orrick.
Pandering to the whiteboard.
Julian Edlow. The whiteboard haunts my dreams. Now, looking into the future here, gentlemen, the Cardinals plus 700 to make the playoffs, minus 1250 to miss them. Which bet you taking right now, Reed?
Give me minus 2,000, and I'm still going to take missing the playoffs. Like, they're not even going to finish in the top 3 in their division. It's a tough one. You just look at the NFC in general, it's going to be tough. Like, 12th in strength of schedule this season. They faced 4 teams in the first 6 games that either made the playoffs in 2017 or 2018 last year in Seattle, Atlanta, Baltimore, and Carolina. you just look at what these guys are able to do. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of, buzz around Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, but still, I think these guys are going to be down quite a bit. For fantasy purposes, I think it's a team to target because they do have some players, but as a team total make the playoffs, minus 250, they're going to miss it.
To my favorite analyst, Jeff.
Whiteboard is having its effect, by the way. This is perfect. Look, it really all depends what you think of the Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury combo. I like these new style offenses. I think they catch other teams who just will not refuse to change off guard at times. I think Kyler Murray is going to be a very good quarterback, especially in this scheme. And I think the Cardinals are going to score a lot of points. They have some good offensive weapons on the side. I'm excited about Christian Kirk. The first 7 games for the Cardinals, it's not a tough schedule. Detroit to start off with at home, terrible. Then Baltimore, Carolina, Seattle. They can go 2-2 there. I think plus 700 isn't that bad. Their division is not as tough as some people think. I think Seattle is due for a downgrade personally. San Francisco has injury concerns. Plus 700 is what it's all about. That's where the value is for me. And I don't mind taking that for them just to sneak into the playoffs.
Julian, where are you going on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals aren't going to make the playoffs. I think their division is very tough with the Rams, Seahawks, and the 49ers are a team projected for 8 wins. So they're not going to make the playoffs, but I'm not willing to lay minus 1250 on it either. So if I want to be betting on the Cardinals in some way, I just want to look at other places. Like Reed was talking about Kyler Murray and his fantasy impact, and I think Kyler Murray will have a good fantasy season, but we're going to get some pretty interesting both rushing and passing props on Kyler Murray. These number 1 picks that have come in have been really good. Baker Mayfield had a really good season passing the ball once he was fully committed to as the starter. So I think that these first picks that come in that are used to these, fast-paced college-style offenses, and the Cardinals have the perfect coach for it, I want to look at player props for Kyler Murray rather than either lay 1250 on the Cardinals missing the playoffs, which I think they're going to do, or go for a real Hail Mary on them making it after winning 3 games.
Out and not picking a side was an option. I didn't know.
Because both the sides are stupid. You're going to get burned no matter which one you take.
Hey, he's a basketball guy, Jeff. You got to give him a break.
I'm an everything guy, Reed. I'm on all the segments. Come on, MLB. Come on, NBA. I come on a segment, you fly all the way to the other side of the country. You can't even come in the studio with me.
He's in Hawaii.
Come down there. Come down there, Panel B. It's okay.
Man.
Ooh-wee.
If we weren't in the same studio, I would give you a hug right now. All right. Jeffrey, a Foles-less Eagles team is minus 182 to make the postseason, plus 150 to be watching them from home. Thoughts?
I wanted to harp on the Eagles here and say, they traded Nick Foles. There's not a chance these guys are going to make the playoffs. They deserve to miss, but I looked at their schedule, and yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, Washington, Detroit, the Jets, but their schedule is it's pretty easy, to be honest. And unfortunately, Carson Wentz is still a pretty solid quarterback. They made some good additions. And the one thing that really makes me like the Eagles, they have Doug Peterson as their head coach. He's going to make good in-game decisions, or at least he's going to make better in-game decisions than the average head coach. Unless injury concerns get them, I wouldn't really look at this as a team to miss the playoffs. The Giants and the Redskins, that's the other fact. They have 2 really weak teams in their division. So I think at the very worst, they'll scratch out a wild card. But I definitely like them to make the playoffs.
All right, Jules, pick a side, please.
Here's a take. The Eagles are going to suck this year. They're going to miss the playoffs. I'll take them at plus 150. The 9.5 win total, I'll take the under at plus 130 because Carson Wentz cannot hold up. And when he doesn't hold up, they've had a great backup behind him in Nick Foles that comes in and saves the day, and now they don't have that. So Carson Wentz, he's going to have to hold up 15, 16 games if this team is going to make the playoffs and exceed their win projection. I don't think he's going to do that. He has not proven to me that he can do that. So if and when Carson Wentz goes down, you're going to have plus odds on under 9.5. You're going to get even better odds on them to miss the playoffs. Jeff is right. The schedule is the only concern. If Carson Wentz is healthy for the whole season, with the teams the Eagles are playing, they'll be fine. But I'll bet on that not happening and take the plus odds.
Yep. Now Nick Foles is saving the day in Jacksonville. Reed, what do you think about the Eagles' chances to make the playoffs?
Yeah, it sounds like Julian doesn't believe in Nate Sudfeld.
No,
hoping to
who's
get that QB2 spot in Philly. I get that, but I'm with Jeff here. I mean, over the last decade, Philly has made the playoffs half of those times. And in one of those years, they beat Julian's Patriots in epic fashion. And so I do like the Eagles to make the playoffs. Like, it's a 50-50 chance. Washington's not going to make it. The Giants, like Julian mentioned, they're not going to make it. So it's a 50-50 chance to win that division. And yes, the Cowboys have a lot of buzz around them. Amari Cooper with a full year. Dak Prescott hoping to get that contract. And once he does, right, is there that narrative that once he gets that contract, he doesn't play as well? I don't necessarily believe that, but look at Dak Prescott. We've seen ebbs and flows. If you want to talk about quarterbacks, I've seen an MVP type like season from a guy like Carson Wentz. Granted, he got hurt, but during that year before, he was on an MVP type like season. Deshaun Jackson. Now you get Miles Sanders, who's a rookie, but add some depth to that. You have Jordan Howard. You have Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz. That offense is firing. And you have Doug Peterson. I mean, Jeff is right. He hit the nail on the head. You have Doug Peterson. If you have a 50-50 chance to win that division, I'm going to take them at those odds to make it.
All right, plus 275 for the Jets to make it past the regular season, minus 360 to miss the playoffs. Which one do you like more, Julian, who's also a football guy?
I'm an everything guy. We've covered this. So the only thing that concerns me here is schedule. The Jets have one of the weakest schedules in football, but they have no idea what they're doing, and they've proven that to us. So the Jets are not going to make the playoffs here. This isn't as wild as a minus 1250 with the Cardinals. This is more reasonable odds, laying minus 360. I'm not afraid of the Jets at all. I think the Bills might even have more promise than them. The Patriots are obviously going to win the division here. I think there are just better teams in the AFC to get those 2 wild cards. I'm not afraid of the Jets at all. I think that they're spiraling out of control. Sam Darnold, still a lot of learning to do, so I think minus 360 is reasonable, and I'll lay that.
All right, Reed, no faith here in the Jets from Julian. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with Julian here. I mean, look at this division. This is not the division in the AFC that's going to put 2 teams to the playoffs. I mean, it's now become like a consistent thing, like death taxes and the Patriots winning the AFC East. They've won it 10 straight years. And you just look back, the Miami Dolphins in 2008 was the last team to win it since the Patriots. But then the Patriots then went on from 2001 to 2007 winning that division. And then the Jets won in like 2002. So it's been a long time since they've won it. If you just take what they've been able to do now, they put some pieces together for the future. You're not going to win this division until Bill Belichick and Tom Brady hand in their pink slips. It's just not going to happen. So this team is not this division is not going to be the one that sends 2 teams to the playoffs. So I'm with Julian here.
Jeff, 3 for 3?
Look, Julian's right. They kind of do have a weak schedule, but it's weighted really weirdly. The first half is actually really tough. There's a very good chance the Jets could start 0-7, and I'm not being facetious at all. If they lose to Buffalo week 1, then they have Cleveland, New England, Philadelphia at Philadelphia, Dallas, New England again, and then at Jacksonville and Nick Foles, which is a guaranteed loss. You tell me which game other than the Buffalo game they're actually going to have a serious chance in there. I don't really see much. So maybe Dallas, I don't know. It's a really ugly start for them. They could really get in the hole quick. And if they go like 2-7 or something, like they're just not going to be able to rebound, even though they have a soft schedule. So there's so many reasons why I like this, but I don't mind paying the juice down here. I think if you're making like a to miss the playoffs parlay, the Jets have to be part of it.
All right, Jeff, let's talk about the Chiefs here. Minus 265 just to make the playoffs, plus 210 to miss out on them. Share with us your feelings.
Yeah, the Chiefs are interesting because I can understand why people would want to target them as like a regression candidate. You got the Tyreek Hill situation. You lose a weapon there. I still think I'd rather be on the side of them making the playoffs, and there's a couple reasons why. The first is they get to play Oakland and Denver 4 times this year, and those teams they're not going to be good. And the rest of their schedule isn't as bad as it looks. I mean, they get the AFC South. I mean, Houston is a weaker team. I mean, Indianapolis is good, but are they really that dominant? I don't know. And then you got Jacksonville and Tennessee, who are, again, could go either way. So I still think there's enough wins here for even if Kansas City, is depleted at wide receiver, lose a couple players, for them to scratch out a wild card at worst. Obviously they have Mahomes, so the title's there too. But I'll take to make the playoff side here. All right,
Reed, which bet you take?
Yeah, I hate to agree with Jeff here, but he's right. I mean, Kansas City, there's a lot of question marks. I'm more focused on that defense. Yes, they're losing some key parts on offense in Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill potentially, but just look at that defense and what they lost. I get it. They brought in Frank Clark, but he's not going to be someone that changes the landscape of a game like a J.J. Watt or like a Khalil Mack. He's just not that type of player. You lose Eric Berry, and it's really that secondary that scares me. And that's what we kind of saw last year with Kansas City is they score all these points really quickly. And if you lose some of your key offensive parts in that scheme, it really falls on Andy Reid. And you look at their schedule, they finished their last 5 games, a pretty difficult last 5 games. Yes, Oakland, it remains to be seen what they're able to do. Still in division, you have New England, Denver, Chicago, and then the Chargers. And the Chargers are really the question mark. as a team that probably has the best chance to take this division away from the Chiefs, who have won it over the last 3 years. I'm going to say that they're going to make it, but wouldn't be surprised if it came down to that last game for the division.
Jules, you like them to make it or miss it?
I feel like Reed just gave me a million reasons to bet that they're going to miss it and then said they're going to make it, so I'm kind of confused. But that's fine because I was already ready to say that they're going to miss it. Give me plus 210 here. They're not going to make the postseason. I'll take all the regression. This team was not very good after Kareem Hunt left the team last season.
Dang.
They were right around 500. Yes, they were playing really good teams. Now you take, most likely, Tyreek Hill out of the mix. There's just not the weapons there. Patrick Mahomes can be as good as he wants, but he's not going to be throwing the ball to anybody. He's not going to be handing the ball to as talented of a running back, although they haven't downgraded that much. I just think this is a spot where I really like the Chargers at plus money to win the division, and that means that we need the Chiefs to get one of these 2 wild card spots. I'll say that there's enough good teams in the AFC, and that the Chiefs have a weighted enough schedule after the first place finish that I'll take plus 210 for them to not get one of those final 2 wild card spots if I believe the Chargers are going to win the division.
Ooh, you are a fired up little man today.
Okay.
That's right, Emerson.
All right, toodaloo, guys. Thanks for the help. NBA and MLB Showdown picks are still ahead, but first, here's Julian, Steve Buchanan, and Alex Jankowski on the Panel B podcast.
The Blues and the Bruins, kind of an interesting matchup there. 2 teams that struggled in the beginning of the year. The Bruins just hurt. Everybody hurt. The Blues just really bad. Some guy named Jordan Binnington comes in, saves their season. You got Bruins minus 155, Blues plus 130 for this matchup. Who's going to start us off here? What do you guys think?
Well, look, obviously the biggest thing here is that the Bruins have such a long layoff until they start playing. Once game 1 takes place, they've been off for 11 days so far. So obviously that's a concern, and it kind of hinders on Tuukka Rask because he's just been so hot this postseason. 1.84 goals against average, 942 save percentage. So it's really going to be a testament on how he looks in game 1 because, like we said, they've had such a long layoff. The Blues offense has been looking really good, 3.8 goals per game during that last series against the Sharks. So it's going to be a real test, but I think these teams are both pretty evenly matched.
I mean, for me, and the Bruins in this layoff, they're actually playing a scrimmage at the TD Garden, selling tickets so that fans can get involved, just so that they can play some hockey with some people in front of them at some point during this layoff because it's been so long. I think it's great for, the most part because they, as we said, they were so banged up at the beginning of the season. That's something that kind of held them back a little bit from maybe reaching their ceiling. They found it. Now they get to get some rest, get healthy. Where it worries me would be with Rask. When you have that hot goalie, you want to keep him hot during the postseason. So as long as Rask comes out the way that he's played ever since, game 6 of the first round against Toronto, he's been fantastic, and I think the Bruins deserve to be favored in this series. In terms of St. Louis, they've been really good on the road. I think they're 7-2 on the road in the postseason, right? So they're somebody that can. Game 1 is going to be huge because the Blues have been playing, they're cruising. Right. The Bruins have this layoff. St. Louis has been a good road team. If they can come in and get game 1, I think that makes them much more.
For the Blues, though, too.
True. This is really quick. One thing that I've always liked about hockey, I'm obviously an NBA guy. I've spent time covering the NBA. Basketball is my sport. The layoffs in the NBA playoffs suck. I've always given it to hockey 2 days, everybody just comes right back. It's such a physical sport, and you just keep playing. And now we have this layoff to get into the Stanley Cup, and then when it gets going, there's still 3-4 day layoffs in the middle of it. They started on Memorial Day. Come on, hockey. Let's be get into it.
Yeah, scheduling has never been a forte of the National Hockey League, but to the Blues' credit, you mentioned their road record. I think injuries on San Jose's part played a big role in them closing that game out, that series out rather. But you can't discredit them knowing who they are and what type of team they are, defensive-minded, capitalize on the chances that they get. You mentioned game 1 being the most interesting, and I'm with you there because I think if they're able to steal one there, and Binnington has been just as hot, really, going even back to the regular season. So at plus 130, especially if they end up taking game 1, those odds will go down. I mean, this would be the spot to grab them at the beginning.
No, and I agree too. And like I said, the layoff is going to be the biggest thing, and I think that's going to be a big storyline going into this is how the Bruins respond to that. And like, Julian mentioned, they have the scrimmage coming up and everything, and that's great and all, but, you're playing against people you're vastly familiar with. The Blues are coming in, you haven't really seen them this year or anything like that, so it's definitely going to be interesting, but it's, the Bruins do have home ice throughout the series, so that's obviously in their favor as well, but yeah, it definitely is going to be interesting because, two red-hot goalies going up against each other.
And here's how you tell you have two hot goalies. The over-under for game one already set at 5. Yeah. So, really tough there.
Thrilling Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Don't go outside and grill. Sit down and watch some 2-1 hockey. I got to be honest, though. I think the rust factor is a little overblown for me, if only because the Blues also are going to have so much time off. At some point, the time off is the time off. Everyone will be as healed up as they can get.
And that is the B Team podcast. So what happens when the White Sox and Astros meet in the only primetime baseball game on this Thursday slate? A showdown contest is born. That's what.
All right, DK Live's Mike Barner and James McCool are here to help break down this one. So Corbin Martin will start for Houston, and I can't even read the prompter.
Lucas Giolito.
Giolito will
her
start
eyes
for
are
Chicago.
Crap. I will give her that.
Are you playing either of these guys, James?
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to play both of them if I can in Showdown. We know that pitchers have a much easier time getting above 20 fantasy points than hitters do with how variant the range of outcomes are for batters. So if I'm going to play a Showdown slate, I always want to try to maximize what my range of outcomes is on the upper end. So I would prefer to play both pitchers in the same way that I'd prefer to play both quarterbacks in game Showdown and on NFL. So yeah, I'm going to try to play both of them. It's hard to get them both with how high priced the hitters are, but I'd like to play both.
Mike, where are you going on this one?
I'll go the opposite way. I'll say neither of them. Giolito's numbers this season are a lot better, including his increased strikeout rate, but I think it's important to break down who he's actually faced. 5 of his 8 starts have come against the Royals, Indians, and Blue Jays, which all have bad lineups. The other 3, he faced the Mariners, Yankees, and Red Sox, gave up 12 runs in 14 1/3 innings. So he's obviously got a tough opponent here in the Astros. I'm a little worried about Martin. He's been a little up and down since he came up, so I'll go the route with all hitters tonight.
Hey, Mike, after the pitchers, the next 3 highest priced guys are all Astros. Bregman, Brantley, Correa. Who do you like the most? And more importantly, why?
I got to go with Bregman. He's on a homer tear right now. He's hit 11 of them in his last 21 games. His power upside's really just too good to pass up, especially since Giolito has allowed 1.4 home runs per 9 innings for his career.
All right, James. You like Brantley?
No, I like Correa. I think that for the price that you're going to be paying on these guys, Carlos Correa has just as much power as Alex Bregman, even if it hasn't been on display thus far in the season. Bregman's definitely been hitting more home runs, like Mike said. But I do like Correa a lot. I think that he makes a little bit better contact. He's not so boom or bust, and he's going to be somebody who can steal when he gets on the base paths as well. So I like Correa, but I think that it's even above all 3. If you're going to take anybody, then it's going to be one of these 3 guys.
Yeah, cheapest one out of the 3 as well. Only $9,200.
Oh, very good there.
That's my added take.
That's great. Well, we talked Astros bats. Now, on the flip side, who do you like the most from the White Sox offense here, James?
It's got to be Jose Abreu. I mean, not only is Jose Abreu a good player for this matchup, but he's a good player overall. I have him as one of the highest adjusted home run rates in the league. He's been hitting home runs against guys like Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander, and now he gets to face kind of a lesser pitcher, and not necessarily lesser in the stuff that he throws, because Corbin Martin's really good, but he still doesn't have much experience up at this top level. So he's going to make mistakes. He's going to leave things over the plate for a good hitter like Abreu, and he's got to be my favorite play on that team.
Mike, who are you taking?
Couldn't agree more. It's got to be Abreu. He's homered in back-to-back games. He's got at least 1 hit in 12 of his last 15 games. If it wasn't for his injuries limiting him last year, he would have had 25 home runs and 100 RBIs for the 5th straight season. He's healthy now. He's swinging a hot bat, so he's definitely the White Sox I want in my lineup.
Mike, who are you going to captain?
I mentioned him before, Bregman. With the homer streak he's on right now, I just can't resist. He'll eat up a significant portion of your budget, but you can still fill out a dangerous lineup as long as you avoid the starting pitchers, which is the strategy I'm going with tonight.
All right, James, 1.5 times the salary for your captain, but you get 1.5 times the points.
And with my strategy, I have to take something cheap. So I'm actually taking Charlie Tilson. Charlie Tilson did hit that grand slam a couple of games ago. Actually, it might have been last game. But he's not going to be somebody that's going to hit for a lot of power, but he does have a lot of speed. He had 40 stolen bases in the minor leagues. And then coming up, he's got an everyday role, and he makes good contact. So going up against somebody like Corbin Martin, who doesn't really throw very many strikes. He's only got a 39% two-strike percentage right now over his 2 starts. If he gets on the base paths, I like him to be able to get maybe a walk and a hit and a stolen base, and that's plenty for how cheap he is, especially if you're getting both pitchers in.
All right, now we're looking for a bargain, okay? A bargain means players under $6,000. What a deal. So who are you feeling, James?
I'm going to go right back to Charlie Tilson. I like him for all the same reasons. If you're not going to go there, I don't mind going Yolmer Sanchez. I guess he's hitting really late or really back far in the lineup. I think he's hitting 8th. But he does make good contact. And again, with Corbin Martin's walk issues and with his problems with throwing strikes, I think that anybody on this White Sox lineup has a good opportunity to reach their floor at the very least, get anywhere between 3 to 5 points. So I don't mind Yolmer Sanchez, who's somebody who doesn't strike out a whole bunch and can get on the bases more than once in this game.
Mike, need a player from you who's under $6,000.
I'm on the same page with Charlie Tilson. He's been hitting 300 since he was recalled. He was hitting 333 at AAA before he was called up. So he definitely has the speed there to cause some problems too. If you want to take a chance on someone with some power upside, Yonder Alonso is hitting for a terrible average, but he does have some good power numbers, and he's only $5,400.
Short and sweet, guys. NBA Showdown picks are coming up after this Aubrey Graham update.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The NBA seems to have the second coming of Spike Lee upon them in the form of Drake. The world-famous rapper and Toronto native has been very vocal throughout the Eastern Conference Finals, where his hometown Raptors are taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Drake has been seen trolling Giannis Antetokounmpo as the MVP candidate has been struggling over the last few contests. He's laughed at him as the forward airballed a free throw and has been noticeably jarring at him from his courtside seats. As the series is now 2-2, Drake's antics have forced Bucks coach Mike Budenholzer and Giannis' agent to publicly criticize him, seemingly as an effort to silence the Grammy Award-winning artist. There's certainly no place for fans, and whatever it exactly that Drake is for the Toronto Raptors, to be on the court. Budenholzer told reporters, there's boundaries and lines for a reason, and like I said, the league is usually pretty good at being on top of stuff like that. Drake responded to those criticisms by simply sending out a few laughing emojis. Giannis and the Bucks will likely have an easier time dealing with Drake's antics as this series now shifts to Milwaukee for Game 5, but the rapper will have one more chance to troll them in his hometown when they go back to Toronto for Game 6.
Last block of the program. Stick with us here, especially those of you who may have some interest in tonight's NBA Showdown contest. Got about 8 minutes to fill, so be long-winded, you two.
Take your time. DK Live's Julian Edlow and Karin Phillips from theshadowleague.com have returned to offer up some advice. So, Chris Middleton went off in Game 4 with 50 DK points. So his price jumped $2,000 up to $9,400 for Game 5. Is that increase just like an overreaction here, Jules?
I think it is, and Chris Middleton's going to be a really important player for the Bucks in this Game 5. He's obviously, their second best scorer, a really key player that's going to play well over 30 minutes in this game. But from a Showdown perspective, he's been so much cheaper all series. I can't pay $9,400 for him just because he had such a good game, such a good scoring game with 30 real points in Game 4 in Toronto. So I think he's going to have a really good game, but Giannis isn't that much more expensive than him. I would rather pay up there and then get some of those other key role players like Karin and I were talking about on the first block of the show.
Karin, I know how much you hate spending money.
He can't be paying up right here. He can't be doing it.
$2,000 more for Chris Middleton. Is that an overreaction or is it warranted?
Now look, earlier this week we talked about I saved my money all season just so I can get, extra cashy in the playoffs. But I'm not getting extra cashy on Chris Middleton. All season, this was this guy's averages. 18-6-4. He was 11-11-4 in Game 1, 12-1-1 in Game 2, 9-9-3 in Game 3, and then went for 30-6 in Game 4, and everybody lost their minds just like he was some second coming of a first-team All-NBA player or something. Yes, this is an overreaction. He's overreacting just like his wimpy coach is about Drake and all this. Look, don't get mad at a guy celebrating on the sidelines when you're the coach. The guy ran out of Atlanta just because you couldn't win one playoff game against Atlanta, and now your team is breaking down against the Toronto Raptors. Look, everybody calm down. Chris Middleton had one good game. He's not worth this money. And Coach Bud, please go take a seat.
Okay. Pascal Siakam with a disappointing 20 DK points in Game 4. He's been very up and down in this series. So would you play him tonight, Karin?
I wouldn't, just because, as we watched this series on TNT, Chuck, Kenny, and Shaq always like to talk about the others, and Siakam is one of the others, and this is a road game. I would stay away from him. Now, Game 6, I would be more looking into playing him, but tonight I would be hands off on Siakam.
Are you going to have your hands on Siakam tonight, Julian?
Yeah, so his price does come down significantly, which makes him intriguing, and he showed us that he has a high ceiling. That Game 3, he had almost 50 DK points. But I just think there are better options. I'm a big believer that in these playoff series that you want to find role players playing at home. So the Stars are going to carry you on the road, and that means generally the role players that I'm looking for on the slate are mostly going to be Bucks. If a Raptors role player happens to fit into my lineup, because it's really hard to get everybody that you want, that's fine, but it probably won't be an $8,000 role player. It'll probably be somebody cheaper like a Danny Green who's been really bad and has to be due for a bounce-back game at some point, or somebody like that.
All right. If you only have room for one, who would you take? Giannis or Kawhi? Jules, it's a rock and a hard place here.
Big question here.
Yeah, whoa, Emerson. It's easy for me. It's Giannis. He's healthy. He's at home. He's the MVP. If you can only take one, it's Giannis. And the thing is, we can afford both. So you're going to want to find a way to fit both of these guys in your lineup in all likelihood. The only reason that you maybe fade Kawhi and just go with Giannis is because you believe that Kawhi's hurt. He was obviously having some quad issues in Game 4. He's been limping around a lot of the series, but he didn't look himself. What was alarming to me about Kawhi, that Raptors bench finally came alive and got them that blowout win in Game 4. Kawhi Leonard still played pretty late into that game and still only took 13 shots. So while he made some signature plays, some key plays, he still didn't look like himself. And if he tries to fade away here on the road and, look to his role players to carry him like they did in Game 4, that's not going to work. And Kyle Lowry is beat up as well. So Kawhi's going to have to take this game over if he wants the Raptors to have a shot in winning, I think, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do that while he's run down and just taken 13 shots in the previous game. So if it's between the two, this is an easy Giannis for me.
Karin, is it an easy Giannis for you, or you want to go out and take Kawhi?
No, I'm taking Giannis on this, and I agree with everything Julian said, except two things. One, Giannis is the MVP. It's going to be James Harden. Two, the reason that Kawhi has been run down lately is just that they've put him on Giannis. He's tired because he's getting beat up, and he's tired of just banging against that guy the last 2 or 3 games of this series, just trying to stop him. And as we see, it's affecting his offense on top of that leg being banged up. But like I said earlier in the show, I expect Milwaukee to win this game. I expect Giannis to have a great game. I don't expect him to go for 30 or anything like that. But I expect his all-around numbers to be through the roof in terms of assists, rebounds, blocks, steals, whatever this team needs to do to get his other guys involved in this home game, because this is a pivotal game. Like I said, I love the eye games. So I'm taking Giannis easily in this one for the guy who will be second in the MVP race.
So is he going to be your captain? If not, who is?
Oh, he's definitely going to be my captain. Like, come on now. I'm not that crazy. Give me the Greek freak. Captain him up. Give me the little stamp thingy.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a captain stamp, but maybe like if that's your slate-approved pick, we could do that for you.
We should get like a captain's hat thingy.
I used to have one of those, but I don't have it right now. Otherwise, I would throw that on. But yes, I'm captaining Giannis. There's just no point in going cheap here. You can afford to captain Giannis and go from there. So he's going to have the biggest game. I'm not trying to figure out another wild Brook Lopez game out of nowhere like we had in Game 1. So give me Giannis. I'll pay up for him, and we'll figure it out from there.
All right, dipping our toes into the bargain bin real quick. Which players under 6K would you consider playing, Jules?
Yeah, so if we can count 6K right on the nose, I do like Brook Lopez, but I mentioned like Eric Bledsoe's been so bad. Mirotic has been so bad. I think George Hill down at 3,600 has to be a guy in consideration for more minutes. He has so much playoff experience. George Hill at $3,600 is my favorite value play.
Car in like 20 seconds.
Give me Danny Green for Toronto and George Hill for Milwaukee, even though I never thought I'd be saying George Hill is going to play good in the big game.
Not a bad game the other night by Mr. Hill. Okay, great. That's our show tonight, everyone. Thanks so much for watching.
But
Peace
we'll be back
out
tomorrow at 6 p.m. on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook.
And the DK Live app.
Awesome. So it'll be me and Emerson tomorrow at 6 p.m. We can't wait to see you. All these guys will probably be back too.